Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another soccer video. So I have good news today, or it could be bad news to some of you. But the US women's national team roster for the Tokyo Olympics has been released this morning, and in this video I'm going to be looking at that roster and also talking about, well, the roster that I kind of came up with after the summer series. In my previous videos, when I was talking about the summer series against Jamaica, Portugal, and Nigeria, I said I was going to come up with my own roster of who I would take, of the 18 players I would take to the Olympics. I did that roster last Saturday. Monday, I made some edits, and I didn't really get a chance to release this video, or I didn't really get a chance to release a video on what players I would take and why I would take them. So I'm going to do that in this video, and well, let's see how close I got. Let's see how close I got to, Vlatko's list. So let's start that off right now. So Vlatko is taking 18 players to the Tokyo Olympics with, I think 4 alternates. So, yeah, let's get into it, and let's look at I'm going to talk about my roster, and then I'm going to talk about Vlatko's roster. Alright, so let's start with goalkeepers. For goalkeepers, I went with Alyssa Nair and Jane Campbell. And Vlatko ended up picking Alyssa Nair and Adriana Franch. So, I was kind of going off of stats when I picked Jane Campbell. And international experience. Jane has had more minutes playing at 180 minutes, whereas Adriana had only 90. But honestly, Jane and Adriana were very close, and stats wise, those two were very close, and I kind of figured it was one or the other when it came to Jane and Adriana. Jane is going to go to the Olympics, but she is going to be an alternate, which is cool, so technically all three goalkeepers are going. Okay, Alyssa is still my number one, she is wearing the number 1 jersey. Alyssa is still my first choice when it comes to goalkeepers, mainly due to her experience. She's been in a World Cup, or she's won a World Cup. So far, she's been playing, I think this year, 630 minutes, and has had a longer shutout record than Hope Solo. Alright, so that's about all I have to say for the goalkeepers. Now let's look at the defenders. So I originally did make a change to my defender list. I switched out, I had Margaret Pierce for defender, and I switched her out with Tierna Davidson. So, yeah, defenders. I picked Emily Sonnet, Becky Sauerbrunn, Abby Dahlkemper, Kelly O'Hara, Crystal Dunn, and, as I said earlier, Tierna Davidson. And Vlatko ended up picking 6 defenders, so kind of like what I did. Yeah, I kind of went with 2 goalkeepers, 6 defenders, 5 midfielders, 5 forwards. But yeah, let's go to the defenders. For Vlatko picked for defenders Abby Dahlkemper, Tierna Davidson, Crystal Dunn, Kelly O'Hara, Becky Sauerbrunn, and Emily Sonnet. So, yeah, basically the same as mine. That's kind of surprising, I'm not gonna lie. Like I said, I would have had Margaret Pierce. I originally picked Margaret Pierce for defender, mainly because she could play in multiple positions, but I decided to switch Margaret Pierce out for Tierna Davidson instead, and I ended up moving Margaret Pierce to forward. But yeah, I guess, I don't know, maybe it's because I was a defender, or I played I was a defender, so maybe I know defenders better than forwards and midfielders. And maybe that's why I'm not a forward or a midfielder. or I didn't play in those positions. Anyway, why I went with these defenders, or why I went with this defending line. So with Emily Sonnet, Becky Sauerbrunn, Abby Dahlkemper, Kelly O'Hara, Crystal Dunn, and Tierna Davidson, this is a really strong defensive line that can push the ball forward towards the midfield and attack. But this is also a defensive line that is not afraid to challenge opposing teams. Becky Sauerbrunn, U.S. Women's National Team captain, along with Kelly O'Hara, have the experience needed not just for the back line, but for the team as a whole. I went with Emily Sonnet because of pure aggression. Crystal Dunn, also a very aggressive player, but speed. She is very fast, and she can get the ball upfield to her teammates. And hey, I love fast players. Maybe it rubbed off on me from my coaches. My coaches had a thing for really fast players. So yeah, I love fast players. Not only that, Crystal Dunn and Emily Sonnet are really good when it comes to 1v1. We saw that in the summer series. So yeah, Emily Sonnet and Crystal Dunn, definitely my favorites. Abby Dahlkemper has also had experience playing in Manchester United, Manchester City. So yeah, so she has experience there. And overall, this is a very strong defensive line. Now, let's see, is the next one midfield? Okay, so we're going to go to midfield, which was a little bit harder for me. Yeah, I had a hard time with the midfield. So my midfield that I picked was Lindsay Horan, Sam Mewis, Christy Mewis, Rose Lavelle, and Andy Sullivan. And Vlatko ended up picking for his midfield. He picked Julie Ertz, Lindsay Horan, Rose Lavelle, Christy Mewis, and Samantha Mewis. Very cool. Also very close. The reason why I didn't go with Julie Ertz or Tobin Heath was because of the injury thing. I did include Tobin Heath and Julie Ertz when I first came up with the roster, but I kind of left them off because I wasn't so sure how they were doing medically or health-wise. So yeah, that's kind of why I went with Lindsay Horan, Sam Mewis, Christy Mewis, Rose Lavelle, and Andy Sullivan. Andy Sullivan, yeah, we didn't really get to see her play that much in the summer series, but I've heard that Andy Sullivan can play in multiple positions. I kind of figured with a limited roster that's only allowed 18 players, I see if she is versatile and flexible when it comes to these positions, that could really benefit the team as a whole. Let's see, what else did I write on this? Okay, so the midfield is still very strong. I kind of felt that even without Julie Ertz or Tobin Heath, the midfield still would have been strong, especially with Sam Mewis and Rose Lavelle. In the Jamaica game, we saw Rose Lavelle roll her ankle. That's all it was. So wasn't really that serious of an injury, but she did roll her ankle and come off the field. But yeah, she's going to recover from that. I am happy to see Julie Ertz. Even though I didn't select her for my roster, it's cool that Julie Ertz is going to be on the Tokyo roster. So yeah, that's awesome. Hopefully, I'm guessing that's going to be very controversial. I haven't read any articles or watched anything based. I didn't want, to be biased when coming up with this roster, but I'm guessing that that could be a controversial decision on Vlatko's part on whether he wants to include Julie Ertz. And my Taurus cat is coming for a visit. But yeah, I think some people are going to say that's a controversial decision to include Julie Ertz. But overall, I am happy with that midfield. that Vlatko picked, especially with Christy Mewis. Like, I thought Christy Mewis, I didn't think Christy Mewis was going to be selected. Like, I personally like Christy Mewis. I think she's a very strong player, but I didn't think she was going to get selected, honestly. But I'm happy with that. It's cool that we get to have both Sam Mewis and Christy Mewis on this 18-player roster. And now, time to move to the forwards, and holy shit, this really surprised me. So, here's who I picked for my forwards. When it comes to choosing the forwards, these were the ones that I picked. Kristen Press, Carly Lloyd, Alex Morgan, Megan Rapinoe, and Margaret Purce. So, yeah, I put Margaret Purce as a forward because she did start in the game against Jamaica as a forward, and she is originally listed as a defender. So, kind of like with Andy Sullivan, I figured if Margaret Purce is able to do both, if she's able to be a forward or a defender, if she's able to play comfortably in both of those positions, yeah, it's good to have a versatile player, or that versatile of a player in such a limited roster. All right, now it's time to see who Vlatko picked. And if you guys haven't heard, you're going to be surprised now. Vlatko's 5 forwards include Tobin Heath, Carly Lloyd, Alex Morgan, Kristen Press, and Megan Rapinoe. I will say it again. Vlatko picked Tobin Heath, Carly Lloyd, Alex Morgan, Kristen Press, and Megan Rapinoe. I couldn't believe it when I saw that. Tobin Heath is going to be going to the Tokyo Olympics. I am so happy. Tobin is one of my favorite players, and it's great that she is going. I didn't include her in my roster, because I wasn't sure if she or Julie Ertz would be ready for the Olympics, but holy shit, she is going, and I'm so happy that Vlatko picked Tobin Heath. Yeah, Carly Lloyd, Alex Morgan, Kristen Press, Megan Rapinoe. Yeah, the standard forwards, but Tobin Heath, I am happy that she is going to go. Again, this is probably going to be very controversial. A lot of people may have a problem with Tobin Heath and Julie Ertz going because of medical issues. And that's understandable. A lot of people probably aren't going to be happy with this roster, especially when it comes to Tobin Heath or Julie Ertz. But personally for me, I am happy with this roster. I think it's going to be an interesting. The upcoming games against. I had to look at the upcoming games for the Olympics, but the Olympic games with this starting team, or with these 18 players, it's going to be very interesting. And I am hoping that Julie Ertz and Tobin Heath will pull through during the games. We do have 2 games against Mexico, one on July 1st and the other one on July 5th. And hopefully we will get to see Julie Ertz and Tobin Heath play again. But yeah, I am happy. I am really happy that Tobin Heath and Julie Ertz get to go. I'm guessing that those would be controversial picks for some people. I haven't really read up on how, like, other commentators, what they're saying about Julie Ertz and Tobin Heath going, because I didn't really I was trying not to be biased going into reviewing this roster, or reviewing Vlatko's roster. But yeah, even though I didn't include Julie Ertz or Tobin Heath on my own roster, I am happy that Vlatko is including them. It also just tells me that maybe both of these players have recovered enough. Yeah, maybe both of these players have recovered enough that they're back to how they were playing before. So, yeah, I'm really excited for this roster. I'm excited for the Tokyo Games, and I'm excited to see the Olympic send-off games against Mexico. So, yeah, I can't wait. Anyway, what do you think of this roster? Who would you have selected? Who would you have selected for your 18-player roster? Leave that in the comments below. Oh yeah, and I mentioned the alternates. So Vlatko also named 4 alternate players who will travel to Japan, and that includes Jane Campbell, Casey Kruger, Katarina Macario, and Lynn Williams. Cool. Anyway, what do you think of this roster? Who would you have picked? Leave your comments in the comment section below, and I'll see you all in the next one. Later.